I'd now like to introduce Professor Richard Hillis. Richard is the CEO of the Deep Exploration Technology CRC. He graduated from Science degree in honours from the Imperial College London and a PhD from the University of Edinburgh. Richard was previously the Mawson Professor of Geology and head of the Australian School of Petroleum at the University of Adelaide. He's a director of AusScope and the CRC Association, is a fellow of the Australian Academy of Technological Sciences and Engineering. Could I ask Richard to come up and take the lecture? Thank you.
Thanks very much. Story popped into my head actually as I was just listening to that introduction. I have talked about DET CRC a few times. I'm going to have to tell you this story to get out of my head. So Paula, you can count in my 15 minutes, okay? Even though it wasn't planned. And it's about the bloke who did the world's first heart transplant. Some of you will remember who that is. Christian Barnard. Some of you might even remember when, 1967, he did the first heart transplant. You amazing thing, man's heart. The chap didn't live for very long, lived for about 3 months, but obviously that was the start of something. So after the first heart transplant, the Australian Medical Association asked Christian Barnard if he would do a lecture tour through Australia. And he said, oh, it's in South Africa, of course. So he said, yeah, I'll come from South Africa, I'll do a lecture tour about the first heart transplant. If, instead of flying around your beautiful country, you provide me a chauffeur and drive me from capital city to capital city. So of course his medical association says, fantastic, we'd be delighted to do that. Christian Barnard flies into Perth, gives his lecture about the first heart transplant at the Charles Darwin and Sewell Hospital. It's fantastic, everyone loves it. He then meets his chauffeur in his peak cab, and the chauffeur drives him all the way across the Nullarbor to Adelaide, and he gives the talk at the RAH and the QEH in Flinders. And then the chauffeur's driving on down to Melbourne. And Christian Barnard says to the chauffeur, you know, actually, I've given this time 6 talks already, and I've given about 20 times internationally. You've heard it 6 times. Why don't we just swap clothes and you give the lecture? It'll be a good story for you. And the chauffeur says, Professor Barnard, I couldn't possibly do that. I'm just a chauffeur. You held a man's heart in one hand and another in the other. So anyway, Barnard goes on to Melbourne, gives it 5 times there, the chauffeur listening all the time. On to Sydney another 5 times, and he's on the last leg of the drive and says to the chauffeur, go on, what about it? You've heard it 16 times now. The slides are there, it'll be a piece of cake. Chauffeur thinks, yeah, all right, I'll do it. So they change clothes. Chauffeur thinks, great story for the grandkids. You know, doesn't really matter to me, I'm just a chauffeur. Chauffeur gets up at the Brisbane Hospital, whatever that's called, and he gives the talk, and he is word perfect. And at the end, as we will hear, they invited questions. And the Brisbane Surgeon General gets up and asks this terrifically intricate question, to which the chauffeur replies, sir, in all my years of giving this lecture, that is the stupidest, the stupidest question I've ever heard. And to prove how stupid it is, I'm going to get my chauffeur to answer. So I have changed clothes with Phil DeCourcy. If you have any tough questions, Phil will be delighted to answer them. I'm sorry, I come into my head, I've talked about the CRC a bit. Phil is getting close to Christmas. Okay, we are a collaboration. So all cooperative research centres are half funded by the federal government, half funded by industry. We also have a significant component of funding from the South Australian government, which is why our head office is in Adelaide, when perhaps our natural home might be Western Australia. And that has been a part of DSD's strategy to grow exploration undercover, and we're proud to be a small part of that. We have a bunch of major sponsors, and I'll tell you a little bit about how it works. We also have a bunch of, I'm pressing the wrong arrow, sorry. We also have a bunch of affiliates. So it's quite a significant collaboration. I'm not expecting to remember all the slides, but it's a significant collaboration. And if you think all I do is make up jokes, trying to get 3 universities, CSIRO, state government, federal government, BHP, board, long year, all to agree on how you're going to spend money is not always easy, but we get there. It's probably premature to say we've been successful, but I think we have had successes. We've already licensed 2 significant pieces of technology, and there's another, I think, measure of success I'll tell you in a second. I thought I'd talk about the practicalities of it, and also what I think is the importance of the shared vision, so that really you get a chance of seeing what that vision is. I think the practicalities of trying to get innovation in the university CSIRO industry space are about being industry-led, and I say this unashamedly, and they are not about having an organisation that is run on sort of hobbyist research. I will watch with fascination next week's Federal Government Innovation Statement. Terrifically important. But at the minute, for example, in the university sector, some of the drivers are wrong. Academics are rewarded on publications and citations, which are largely a sort of internal club of fellow professors talking about each other. They're not rewarded on the sort of developments that make our lives better, which is perhaps how they should be rewarded. So we are industry-led. They set the agenda of what we research. My own research experience isn't in the CRC, neither is management, and we have an independent board. I think maybe that's a bit of kind of research management blank speak, but I think it is terrifically important. Some other things there that are interesting, and I said I think there's another measure of success. It's been a pretty tough downturn. Not many people doing greenfields exploration. Running a project on research into something not many people were doing is not all that easy through this phase in the cycle, but we've grown our funding from 49 million when we started to 60 million. So in cash and 145 million in kind. So this is a $200 million research venture based in South Australia. It is a significant investment in research. What's the vision? That's a rather complicated geology slide, but it's from the goldfields in Western Australia. The geos amongst us will enjoy it. It is in fact the results of 23,000 drill holes to the top of fresh rock. And it's the amount of antimony in those 23,000 holes, because antimony sometimes acts as a vector or a halo around gold. And you can see in that case where the major gold deposits are marked, that the red or high antimony values do indeed close in on those gold deposits. So there is a signature that is bigger than the actual deposit, be it antimony, be it arsenic, be it clay mineral alteration in Olympic Dam type deposits. And if you think about that in the context we explore, for example, in the Gawler Craton, it's interesting to think. In the Gawler Craton, we usually look for a gravity anomaly, we drill one expensive hole in that gravity anomaly, and usually, unfortunately, there isn't an Olympic dam underneath, because we suffer from too many false positives. There are lots of other things that can cause those anomalies apart from the Olympic dam. We need to drill lots of holes. And if we drill lots of holes, we don't just have sort of one shot in the locker, we can use signatures like this to vector in on the deposit. The other thing I want to mention here is the background of that slide, the grayscale, is the sort of high-resolution geophysics that the state government is going to fund under this new PACE initiative. And if you really observe it, you'll see the geochemical trends follow the trends in that airborne geophysics in that aeromag. So that new aeromag will play a key role in honing or vectoring the cheap holes that we're going to drill. Let me tell you a little bit more about those cheap holes in our technology. We've got three things we're trying to do. We are trying to completely transform the way you drill mineral exploration holes to something called coiled tubing drilling. People often get that wrong with my accent, but it means the drill strings on the coiled tubing drilling. You don't screw together pieces of pipe, no one breaks a finger, everyone goes home safe, the bit is continuously in the bottom, you don't stop to make connections. We are targeting something that is 6 times cheaper than diamond and 3 times cheaper than RC, which will permit us to drill more holes. But we won't recover a core, conventional stick of rock that you're used to looking at. We will do real-time sensing in the hole and at the top of the hole. So the other two pillars are downhole sensing of rock properties and top-of-hole sensing of geochemistry and mineralogy. How much copper is there? How much iron is there? Is it hematite or magnetite? Those sort of things. So we will get that information right away. And we have in fact licensed products in downhole sensing lab at rig. So we have made significant progress there. That's what a small coiled tubing rig looks like, and I just wanted to show you that to get the idea. It is quite different from a conventional drill rig. The drill string is on a continuous coil. You don't stop to make connections, that's why it's much quicker. And we are accompanying that with downhole sensing, so you get information about the rocks right away, and we are accompanying it with top-of-hole geochemistry and mineralogy. So we're talking about trying to drill 6 times cheaper, give people all that information right away, and enable something we call prospecting drilling. Talked about conventional practice in the Gawler Craigorn where we drill one hole and 99 times out of 100 we're wrong. Prospecting drilling will be a continuous deployment. It's much cheaper, we'll keep the rig in the field, we won't demobilize and remobilize. You'll stay in the field. As soon as we get a sniff of copper, we will say, all right, let's change our geophysical target with the new data, let's follow the geochemical vectors and drill holes, gradually vectoring in on the deposits. And as I say, if you want to see the seriatim, the data like the new state government geophysical data is where you start that process, it's where you start the exploration. So that I think is my summary slide, that together, the coil tubing drilling, cheap drilling, real-time sensing, that data will go up on the cloud. People will actually look at it, the whole expert team in head office can see all that data in real time, we're already doing that. It can refine the geophysical model, work in the geochemical model, and permit you to progressively vector towards the deposit in a single deployment. I might have a couple of slides. I just want to say that we are out in the field at the minute. We're drilling with Minotaur in the state government. We've just been drilling with Kingston in the state government. So again, this is a research venture. We've taken things from the lab to testing at Burkunda, where we have a test facility, to actually being deployed in the field to being licensed. And even this little project, this little $3 million drilling exercise, involves all these different parties. And as someone who's lived in South Australia for 25 years, I'm actually really proud that this venture is based in South Australia. So thanks very much, and I also will be happy to take a question at the end. Oh, sorry, Phil will be happy to take a question at the end.